Hello, Ruben here. Today I like to talk about the Sculpter 500, an amazing preamp feature packed which helps a lot in your studio doing your recordings to make your life easier. So let's take a look inside. Let's talk about all the features on the Sculpture here and what it can do for you. So on top here we have the gain control, which is basically an encoder here, and in the background there are relays and doing the gain switches. You can hear this obviously, but also you can toggle this here between two modes from the display. Normally you see here the output in dBu, it's labeled on the left side, and if you press this, then you see the labeling on the right side. That's a gain of the Sculpture here. So the next thing here is the shape, and this is, I think, one of the most important features from the Sculpture because it can change the tonal sound from more transparent, clean to a more vintage style. So what it does basically, it adds harmonics depending on the input cell levels, and also adds a filter after the harmonic section. And the filter can be switched into two modes, shape 1 and shape 2, which can be applied by this button here. And the shape 1 mode is more a warmer tone, and shape 2 is a more transparent mode, or it focuses more on vocals, on high mids. We will hear that later on the sound examples. Then we have here a nice low cut. So it's a 12 dB slope and cut out the low end, and sounds very smooth, very transparent, and is really useful in many applications. Then we have here the onboard compressor, and this is something I'm really proud of, having this in the Sculpture. I think it's one of the most transparent sounding compressors I ever developed, and also the way how it behaves. It's a softening characteristic, it's a ratio of 3:1, and all the timing constants are made in a way that it's useful in all kinds of signals. You never hear that breathing or pumping. You put that in, I never thought, okay, I have something wrong here. So it's always behaves very, very good, I have to say. And the amount of compression is indicated by this little LED here, but it can do up to 14 dB of gain reduction. So it's quite a lot here. Then we have also a button here for the phantom power. And one cool thing here is that it also engages the mute. So here's a mute function that mutes the output of the amp. This is a phase reverse. But let's see if I put it here, what it does. I hold it a little bit and then it will automatically mute the output, which is very handy, especially when it comes to change the microphone and all that stuff. Then we have also here a very good high-end DI input. And the special thing is here that it is balanced. So there is, when you come from synthesizers and from other sources which have balanced output, it can be also applied to this here. And also there's in the combination with the gain settings here, there's one very useful feature. So I can show you on the second channel. Here we see, okay, that would be a microphone on the back side. But what if I plug in a bass guitar, for instance? So what you have to do, only plug that in and see what's going on here. It mutes the output and also switch off the phantom power, and also the gain is reduced. So see here. But what makes the Sculpture sounding very good and special and so high quality? Let's talk about this, about the internal circuit designs. When it comes to sound quality in preamps, there are different things what really affect the sound and makes them good or maybe bad. So during my experience in the last years, I really investigate this and to find out what is really the difference between a good preamp and a medium sounding preamp. And one thing I find out is the connection between, let's say, the microphone and the preamp. But in the preamp, there's something in between. And that is most of the time a transformer or capacitor. So their function is to decouple the DC when you engage a phantom power to the preamp, because the preamp cannot handle the DC voltage coming from the phantom power. So this is one part that really affects the sound. But why is that? Because the microphone only delivers a very small amount of AC value. And on the other hand, you have to reject a lot of DC, up to maybe 40 dB of volts. So, but the components, especially capacitors, are not made for this purpose. So they degrade the sound quality. And this is something what you like to avoid. And therefore, I thought about what can I do to have nothing in between. So basically the best connection would be a DC coupled connection for the preamp. So the solution was to have my own phantom power. And with the phantom power, there's another part that delivers a part of the preamp, so of the circuit, basically, delivering a higher voltage so that the input is able to get a direct connected microphone with phantom power engaged. So I get rid of this. So during the testing, it was really amazing how good that sound. So the sound is more clear, transparent. You hear also more details. Another thing, what also is important in a preamp, or what most of the preamps have, is a padding circuitry. So basically it will reduce the input level and then it goes to the preamp. So most preamps start with maybe 20 or 30 dB of minimum gain, but often that is too much. If you're miking up a drum kit, you sometimes need only 10 dB of gain in a preamp. So the padding circuitry put that down and then you have to do it up again. So, and this is also a source where sound can be degraded. So with our topology here, what we're doing is that the gain is set with relays. So as we heard before, and therefore I'm able to define the minimum gain. And in this case here with the sculpture is that the minimum gain is only 3 dB or maybe 2.5. And that meant you can go in with very high level signals like drum mics, but also even line signals. And here also with the direct input, you can go in with high levels like synthesizers, or even if you've been embedded this in your DLW with an audio interface, you can use this because the minimum level is only 3 dB here. So I think this is one of the most crucial parts in a preamp. But the whole topology here is a discrete Class A circuitry. What that meant is that we design our own amps and have an influence to the sound quality, and that we can adjust during the development and can make listening tests and change components to a point that we say, okay, that sounds now really, really good. And I think this is one of the big benefits, having it in-house here, that we can do the development and making a listening test, that we have a huge influence to the sound. Then also we take care of the whole power supply system with capacitors, with the layout of the board, with layers internally having the power supply there. So yeah, therefore I'm really proud of this, what it ended up, and we get always very good feedback from customers saying, hey, this is one of the most exciting sounding preamps I ever heard, and even if it's a small device, it's in another quality area or price range that people sometimes said to us. So yeah, therefore I'm really proud of this, that I have put all my experience in this to improve the sound quality here. So yeah, but let's have some sound examples to hear what all the processing here can do for you and what it brings to the signal. So for that example, I've chosen sound. It's a mixer between a Rhodes and an organ. With this, you can hear the harmonics very clearly and how it will affect the sound. And when the sound example is running, I will change the input gain, that you can hear how sensitive this reacts to the level of that circuitry. So it's very obvious how it sounds, and also it sounds a little bit like a compression here, and will reduce the levels of this. So this is a combination of harmonics and compression here what's going on, and sounds a little bit old school and vintage here. I like to show you now the shape 2, so the other frequency response from the shape function. In this case, I will use a vocal example. It's more obvious what the difference is.
Remember the things to come, and think of them when you're young. Some words may be a song. Just keep what you do. Some steps you must through. But all that counts is you.
So it's very obvious how the shape sounds like. So the EQ is having at 4K a little bit of a boosting, and also the combination with the saturation is very clear here. So the vocal gets some kind of a vintage tone because the dynamic of the vocal will drive the harmonics here. So that brings me also to the next feature, and this is an onboard compressor. And let's take a listen to this, how it will affect the overall dynamic of the vocal. Now I will engage the compressor. It has a ratio from 3:1 and has a softening characteristic. And let's go.
Remember the things to come, and think of them when you're young. Some words may be a song. Just keep what you do. Some steps you must through. But all that counts is you.
So it can handle up to 14 dB of gain reduction, and it's really amazing how it sounds. And it's some kind of a safety function here, so you can really use a compressor without thinking, okay, I have done too much compression, so it's not really audible in that example here. So yeah, let's try another example where we also have another feature here. You see here there's a clip LED here. And the idea behind this is that sometimes an artist is performing way more and getting louder as you expected, and so the preamp is doing some kind of an overload. So I embedded a soft clipper circuitry in there, so that even if it is clipping, it's still useful, the signal. So yeah, let's choose another example for this. So even if I drive it really hard, the signal is still useful. That is really something that you can use in a real-world application to have some kind of an overdriven preamp. So now I will combine this with the compressor and also the shape function here. Yeah, so it's really amazing what you can do with the bass sound here, and where you can also play with the overdrive function here. I like to show also another example here because we have the bass now going on, and I can show you how the low cut will behave here. So very clean, very transparent. So it's good to have it on a preamp, and you can really use it directly in the recording here. And the last example I'd like to show you are drums. And for that reason, I will use both sculptures here. So it's embedded also in the cube housing here, what we have here, and to give you an idea what you can do in processing when having a drum overhead. So this is now a nice compressed drum kit with shape 1 to have it a little bit warmer in the tone. I like to do it a little bit more extreme. I will put up the gain to hear what is going on if you crank up the preamp. This was a sculpture on overheads and give a good idea what it can do on drum processing and drum recordings. So with the options also to overdrive the preamp, to use the compressor more extremely and also shape function. I think this shows what the sculpture can do, from being transparent to saturated, colorful, and helpful features like dynamics on board with the compressor, and having little features like the auto mute here and then very good input DI. So I think this is a very versatile tool in your studio for recording as some kind of a front end. So for more information, also look at our website and they find all the information. So thanks very much for watching. Yeah, that's from me, from Ruben. Thanks.